Shimla, the queen of hills, the land where time doesn't tick, it twirls, where clouds don't pass, they pause, and where 3 overpacked bags and 3 underprepared hearts arrived, hoping for nothing but secretly everything. 3 girls, 1 random plan, 0 expectations, and a suitcase full of hopes. We weren't running away from anything, but sometimes you just need a pause. A break from the city, the routine, and your own overthinking. And so, we packed our bags like we were packing pieces of our soul. A few sweaters, and all the versions of ourselves we forgot we were. We weren't just friends on a trip, we were stories looking for a backdrop. And Shimla, you didn't just give us a place, you gave us a plot. Some journeys deserve to be slow. The bus chugged like an old soul with a story, winding through tunnels that felt like time travel. The pines swayed like they knew our names. And inside, we laughed at dumb jokes, shared chips, and clicked pictures of every single turn. Shimla welcomed us with open arms and freezing wind. Our jackets weren't ready, but our hearts always. We reached when the sky was in its blue period, early morning, somewhere between dream and reality. The air cold enough to make our noses pink and our hearts warmer. I was the planner, pulled out an itinerary like a sacred scroll. The second, she left behind a lens, our photographer, our memory keeper. She was already 10 steps ahead, chasing light, framing clouds, and whispering sweet nothings to the camera. And the third, she wasn't chasing moments, she was chasing views, a view addict. Mountains, sunsets, even a puddle reflecting clouds. She perched at the edge of every railing, wide-eyed, lost in horizons, like she was falling in love with the sky again. And I watched them, grateful for the beautiful mess that made this journey unforgettable. We climbed Mall Road with our luggage like warriors with weak knees. The photographer wandered off chasing shadows and smiles. The view addict was busy whispering, "Look at the sky." And me? I just sat there for a moment with my diary in my hand. Sometimes unplanned time is the most beautifully spent. We reached the Mall Road, that charming illusion. We strolled like we owned the hills. Every bench had a story, and every Maggie joint felt like home. The first chai we had was on the rooftop near the ridge. One sip, and everything paused. Maybe it was the altitude, maybe it was the company, but that chai tasted like comfort, like silence stitched with friendship. We weren't chasing photos for Instagram, we were chasing presence, and sometimes each other, especially when one disappeared with a camera. The ridge looked like a movie set, old buildings whispering stories in British accents. A couple holding hands, a monkey with sunglasses. And a sudden change in the weather because Shimla is dramatic like that. We danced, we slipped, we screamed, and we laughed. A moment you can't stage, only stumble into. We stayed in a hostler. Creaky floors, quirky interiors, and a view that makes you want to write poetry. Grab your sketchbook and throw away your phone. Nights were made of board games, blankets wrapped like shawls of comfort, and secrets. the kind that only come out at 2:30 a.m. when someone asks, "Chai?" That night in the hostel, we stayed up too late, talked about life, choices, dreams. You know that moment when friends stop being people you hang out with and start feeling like home? That happened. Somewhere between the chai and the chilly air, we spoke of heartbreaks, of dreams, of the kind of fears no one admits in the daylight. The next day, we hiked up to Jakhu temple. Halfway up, we regretted every choice. We panted, paused, promised to go to the gym. Then forgot it all when we reached the top. Because standing there, surrounded by clouds and bells, you feel small in the best way. Like the world is huge and so are your possibilities. Cafes became our checkpoints. Wake and Bake had the fluffiest pancakes. Trishul Bakery has the best desserts. Japanese pastry is my favorite and Spoony is a popular recommendation. Himachali Rasoi has the most authentic food you can have in Shimla. We tried their dham thali and the most famous snack, Siddu. We ordered too much and stayed too long. Really, some places deserve to be thanked. One night, we stood on the rooftop. The hostel had fairy lights, the kind that pretend to be stars. But above them, the real ones. So still, so endless. We didn't talk much. We just played old songs on a Bluetooth speaker, sipped hot Maggi soup, and let the silence between us say everything. On the last day, we were in Kufri. Kufri came like a wild twist in our tale. Pine trees, mud, and unsolicited adventure. We screamed on the slopes, tried to look brave, failed, and in failing, became memories we would remind each other of at every reunion. We rode through muddy tracks, fell, laughed, and clicked blurry selfies. On the last morning, we woke up before the sun, walked to a spot only the locals knew. The photographer captured my silhouette against the breaking sky, and I finally closed my planner. Because in that moment, everything was exactly where it needed to be. By the third day, we stopped being tourists. We blended in with the rhythm of the hills, the scent of pine, the slowness of it all. No alarms, no deadlines. Only 3 mugs, 3 hearts, and the quiet knowledge that this moment would never return the same way again. Shimla didn't change us. It reminded us that we are more than deadlines and devices. That sometimes the real luxury is time. Time with people who make you feel seen. Time to get lost. Time to not rush. We returned with sunburnt noses, heavy hearts, and light souls. We carried back souvenirs, a pine cone, a bubble wand, and knitted caps. But more than that, we carried back moments. The kind that you don't post, the kind you keep. So here's to Shimla. Not a destination, but a chapter. Not a trip, but a feeling. And to us, 3 girls, 3 versions of chaos, and 1 memory that will live longer than the mist. Leaving Shimla felt like closing a book midway through my favorite chapter. You know you will revisit, but it will never be like this. Because trips aren't about places, they are about versions of you that only exist when you are with the right people at the right altitude with slightly numb toes and an overfull heart. Shimla, you weren't a destination, you were a detour that made us fall in love with friendship again. And for that, we'll always carry a piece of you in photographs, memories, post trip silence, and bubbles. Shimla didn't fix us, but it gave us a pause button. And sometimes that's enough. Three friends went to the hills, they returned with Shimla in their bones. And a promise to never let the world take that away.